who get together to talk about, who have similar functions across the Bay, and they get together to talk about related issues. So if anybody knows anything about teacher certification, the state almost monthly changes the rules on us. So basically we got together because we needed a venting site, someplace where we didn't have alcohol. This would have been very useful, but someplace where we can say, do you believe what they just did, and how are you implementing this? So it's called the Teacher Education Forum, and all the Levaic schools are involved, and it's been a very, very rich group for conversation and for, again, venting. So when this grant came up, it was a natural evolution to work on a project together that would benefit all the members of the Teacher Education Forum. So the participants, Nancy King of Cedar Crest, I'm number 2, Kim Rohrbach of Muhlenberg, and Sally Richwine of Muhlenberg. All right. However, the Teacher Education Forum remains highly involved, and we'll talk about that. So it's a group that also supports just the 4 grant recipients. So, a little bit is, I want to kiss up to John so that he knows we're doing our work. So that's one of my objectives here. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about what's been done. Right, John?
Lots of check marks. This is great.
I know. Notice I didn't put any zeros in there. So anyway, we did get the Teagle buy-in from a larger group, which was very helpful. And we actually report back to that group twice a semester. As the group meets, we share with them what our progress is and ask for their feedback. So there is a wider Levaic group working on this as well. One of the things that was really important, and I know there are, how many of you are going into this new, that you have a new project? Okay, one of the things that we found extremely important was really a lot of talk about the conceptual development of what needed to get done and what the true objective was and the learning that needed to occur through the undergraduates. So that conceptual conversation actually took us, I would say probably 20 to 25 hours. We met usually at somebody's college for lunch, and we had some rich conversations about the objectives and about the topic areas. So that was very, very important, because once we got that in our mind, then the protocols were relatively simple. We also surveyed all of the teacher education faculty across Levaic, because we were developing learning modules that could be used in different ways at different universities. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we wanted to make sure that we were choosing the modules most interest, of most use to the members of our Levaic Teacher Ed Forum. One of the other things we did is organizational scheme for the project, and the standardization of the project, I think, was extremely important. And I'll talk a little bit about how we did that conceptually in a minute. We had to decide, and we have decided on the decision on technology and a delivery platform. And then also we are at the point of where we've drafted all the content. We have script stems, because we're primarily delivering the content through narrated PowerPoints, but we wanted to make sure it sounded the same across all the various chapters. So we all have script stems that we've developed. And then we also have a dissemination plan, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go further. So the D went over there, sorry about that, but it was odd. So one of the things that was a really big lesson for us, and I wish Diane were here today, because she's the one that led us in the direction. Originally we had 5 modules we were planning. And then we thought, 5 modules, not a big deal. But then we looked at the complexity of even one module, and we said if we can do one module well, then the other modules could flow naturally, where there would be a structure already set up and a protocol for the development. So we actually went from 5 down to 1. And even the 1, it got bigger and bigger. So I want to just show you a little bit of how we did it. We did a student learning objectives module, which actually is a data-driven, it is where data drives teacher reflection and instruction. So it actually is a very, very complex module. involved in that is the learning of statistics, which many education students will struggle with. So it's they have to know statistics, they have to know about learning theory, they have to know how to collect data objectively from their students, analyze the data. So it is challenging. It is challenging teachers all over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. All teachers now have to do an SLO project, but our undergrads are actually getting their fingers wet by doing this project as well. So we broke it down into 4 chapters. However, we're going to have an introductory module that's going to talk about setting the context for the topic. And then we each took one of the chapters to get our minds wrapped around and to do the work on that. So you'll see everyone has a chapter, and then one subcommittee is working on the assessment. So within each chapter, we have a series of components. And again, getting to this part was the hardest part of the whole project, because we decided, well, we need to have an introductory lecture capture. So what are we going to use for that? Then we're going to have a narrated PowerPoint. None of our group really are high-level techies. We're really not. In fact, it's frightening because I'm probably the highest level techie, which is really frightening. But even a narrated PowerPoint was one of the things that some of our folks needed to learn more about. Then we're developing readings. We're doing something called web quests, and then we're going to have an assessment. So under each of the chapters, we have these components. But one of the things that we really were striving to do is to make it pretty standardized and predictable for our undergraduate students, and graduate students could do this as well. Okay, so again, it's the structure. We asked for a template, so Farah gave us 3 templates, and so that was a big decision. So what you don't even realize the complexity of what you have to do if you standardize. So now we have a template we're all using. We have standardized content delivery. So again, we've developed a stem of a script, and we're continuing to work on this so that every module sounds the same. We chose course sites. We needed to have a delivery method that really was cross-institutional. And so we couldn't do Canvas, or it was too complex for a blog. We had to find a fairly robust yet open source site. So there's something that Blackboard now has called Course Sites. It's a Blackboard product, and it does everything that Blackboard does. However, it's open to everyone because it's web-based. So that was really, really a great solution to the technology. Because you think about, there are probably maybe 60 teacher educators across all of the LeVaic institution in teacher ed, and everyone will be choosing a chapter of the module to use. So chapter 1 may be used in freshman year, chapter 2 may be sophomore year. They will be used in different courses across many different institutions. So by making it predictable and by putting it up on course sites, we've solved a lot of our technology problems. So far, right, Jim? We hope. We haven't quite seen how much content we can put in without Blackboard or without course sites, shutting down on us. So we're testing the limits there. And so we've started the course site, and so you can see just a screen capture of how we are introducing the module. And then again, we're getting a lot of input from our technology people. So with Farah and Jim especially. And we are starting to populate each of the chapters with the different components. So we're working forward. Now, one of the things that's very interesting and that we didn't anticipate is that there's been a lot of interest in our project at the state level, not just because of the content. Everybody wants to steal our content. So anybody we talk about it with, they'll say, when will it go live, and can it be used in Kutztown or East Stroudsburg? And so far, we're trying to keep a handle before it's perfectly developed on keeping it within LeVaic. So we had to make that decision that it was going to be within LeVaic. However, the collaborative nature actually has been very popular in terms of our presentations output. So just on a whim, we put into the National Student Teaching and Supervision Conference, and we got accepted. And then we got a call from the PACT, which is our professional organization in the state. They were interested in the collaborative model of what we were using in LeVaic. So they encouraged us to put in presentations. So we're doing one for LeVaic, but we also put in a second one on the SLO, because we have developed our expertise to such a level that we are one of the leading university consortiums to actually know about SLO and its implementation with undergraduate teacher educators. So anyway, so we're disseminating the Teagle grant stuff already before it's even done. We still have a lot to do. March 7th, so when everybody else is on spring break, we're here all day, and we're actually going to be producing the narrated PowerPoint, going into the One Button Studio, doing the video capture, and then we're going to also start working on several of the components. And then later that week, I'm going to sit alone in a room, probably with what's left over in the bar, and I'm going to make sure that everything is loaded in the way it needs to be loaded. So I've kind of taken, including me. But the whole idea is, I think that's a learning experience, is that there has to be one person actually taking the responsibility for getting the work of all the others and putting it in and organizing it, because it's just too complex otherwise. So I'm going to be uploading all the components and checking for accuracy. March 15th, the project is going live to pilot at 3 institutions. So we already have classes that we know we're going to be using it in already this spring. It's going to be freshmen, juniors, seniors, and student teachers. And then we're going to be assessing the users of the project. We're assessing the student users. We'll be assessing the faculty users as well. And then we're going to be looking through online quizzes. What is the learning that's taking place? What's the rate of learning? And then we'll revise modules accordingly. And then after it's done, and we love Jim and Farah, but we say we want to do simple narrated PowerPoints. They'll say, we have an idea for you. So I think we're going to get the basic stuff in, and then we're going to put the bells and whistles and do some interesting technologies once we get the basic stuff in. And then we'll assess and report to Teagle. So what did we learn? Time is well spent in conceptual development and consensus building. Because we had a very clear understanding of what we were trying to accomplish and with whom we wanted to accomplish this material, it worked well. And we had a wonderful collaborative group. We really, but again, that consensus building was very important. Keep it small scale for the pilot. Well-designed structure is essential. Have your hands held by the instructional technology specialists, so they're there. And already start looking to the dissemination of the wider professional community, the process first and the product later. So that's basically it. Any other questions? Yeah?
I had a question on your use of Blackboard in terms of the web-based platform.
Mm-hmm.
Is your goal with that to have that particular place where you're storing all of, we'll say, the guided presentations or the spoken over presentations for students to access, or is that simply for your group of 4 to access them and then put them into their own learning management systems? How are you using
we're going to use it for our students to access, because it's up on the web. And so what we do is we send the students an invitation. So if we have the students in the class, we just have the emails, and we send them an invitation. Then they go and they set up a very quick profile, and then they can access the material. And within that, we're actually going to be setting up groups. We're going to say, if you're a DeSales student, here's your assessment. Because we all want to assess in a slightly different way. So there'll be some common assessments, but then we're going to have folders where the DeSales assessment will be there, the Muhlenberg assessment. So because we all want to assess the learning in, again, various ways. And within that, we'll even say Rance-Roney's DeSales assessment. So we can put in multiple folders, and students can access it through there. So we think it's going to work, but so far, and Jim, Jim was one of the folks that kind of mentioned this. I think it's going to work pretty well. We've tried to look at the various challenges, and I think if, as long as it's going to take our stuff, there's not too much stuff, I think we're going to be able to work within that, because we can form learning groups within that. So it does basically everything Blackboard does. Other questions? Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the intellectual property? So you mentioned that Kutztown was interested in
Yeah.
groups that are outside LBAG institutions. I know Teagle's larger than us.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like not to think that, but I know it is.
Yeah.
So how does it work if we develop it and then it gets disseminated throughout the world? How does that
Can I
work?
grab that?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Teagle has explicitly in writing stated that they are not making any sort of IP ownership
Yes.
claim. And so at that point, it's however your individual campuses have arranged things with faculty members.
Okay.
So the classic paradigm that you hope your campus uses is this would be akin to designing a course or writing a textbook, in which case all of the copyright is vested in the authors. But I would very much say that it depends on what exactly is in place on your campus. And those documents will usually address collaborative projects as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I think what we've decided as a group is we wanted to be open to the state. However, we want to be famous through this. So as long as they know it's us and they give us the attribution for this, because we're doing it kind of as a public service.
Sure.
So and that was the approach we took. Any other questions? Okay.
Great. Thank you, Judy.